Okay, if you're a Led Zeppelin fan, I have something today I'm fairly certain you are going to find very interesting. And one of the things we're going to do is we're going to read something about Led Zeppelin III that I found in an old newspaper. But before we do that, I want to show you something that's pretty fascinating. And this is out of my record collection. And this is one of my favorite records. I bought this when I was probably, 14, 15 years old. We used to take these trips to downtown Denver when I was a kid to these used record stores and just find interesting things. And one time I was there, I found this. And this is a Chinese bootleg of Led Zeppelin III. And I know I've shown this at least one other time on this channel, but it is so interesting, all the little pieces of this. And you can see that it is literally falling to pieces. You can see, and I one of these days I'm going to have to put this in some sort of frame or something because it just continues to crumble. But I love this thing so much because it's so interesting. And the first thing that you'll notice about this, of course, it is the normal Led Zeppelin III cover, but it's not cardboard. And you remember the Led Zeppelin III, the album cover had this spinning wheel that you would turn, and then all these things in these circles would change as you spun the wheel. Well, there is no spinning wheel on this, and as a matter of fact, you can see that it's paper. You can see as I move it there what this is like. It's just this very thin paper. You'll also notice something else that's really interesting about it, because it says Led Zeppelin III, just like the cover of the regular Led Zeppelin III. But down here in the corner, you'll see that it actually says Led Zeppelin IV, which is just kind of, again, it's just kind of this unusual thing that I found. And so then I'm gonna flip it over here so you can kind of see what the back looks like. And again, it's so fragile. I mean, you can see that it's just falling apart. But I love this so much because it was just so interesting. You can see the Chinese characters down here. And then what is normally on the back of Led Zeppelin III, of course, John Paul Jones, Robert Plant, Jimmy Page, John Bonham. And on the real cover, you know, Robert Plant's picture is slightly discolored. I think it's kind of more of a brown looking, but this is just has that straight color. But anyway, it's very, it's reminiscent, or it's very similar to Led Zeppelin III, but it's just slightly different. And as you can see, like I said, it is just falling apart. Now, I'm going to show you something else interesting about this. I'm going to take the record out. I'm so sad to see this thing falling apart the way it is, because I love this thing so much, just because it's so odd. So if you look here on the record, it's not on the normal record label that was released here in the United States. It's got this word Union right here. And it also says, as you'll see, Led Zeppelin IV. But it has all the correct track list down here, and you'll see all the way around here all the Chinese characters. And then you flip it over, and same thing over here. God, look at this, these little pieces. Yeah, I need to mount this in a picture frame or something and seal it shut, just because it's not like it's worth any money or anything. It's just personally, to me, it's just kind of a neat, interesting thing to have my hands on. And then again, it says Led Zeppelin IV, and it has all the normal tracks, you know, all the songs that actually are on Led Zeppelin III. So anyway, I thought you'd find that interesting. I have played the record a million years ago, right after I got it, and it is absolutely terrible sounding. You can barely hear the music. It's just kind of, and then you can hear the music in the background. Just very quietly, but because again, this is some sort of a bootleg that was put out. You know, of course, the whole original album was put out in 1970. I don't know when this was put out exactly, but anyway, I thought you'd find that very interesting. It looks like I must have spent. I think I remember trying to peel this off after I got it. And I believe I spent $2.99. And again, I don't think this is worth anything other than it's just kind of cool. And there's this sentimental value for me since I've had this thing now for 40 years or something like that. And anyway, it's just kind of a cool thing. So I'm going to set this aside, and then I'm going to share something with you that kind of follows the normal stuff that we do on this channel that is related to Led Zeppelin III. Okay, so what I found here is a record review for Led Zeppelin III. And it's pretty interesting what this person has to say. And I'm going to be curious if anybody watching this can relate to any of the stuff that this person says in this review. And it's not very long, but I think you'll find this interesting nonetheless. It's from the Capital Journal, December 18th, 1970, and it's on page 46. And the title of this article is simply Led Zeppelin Awful. Okay, let's see. Led Zeppelin III, Atlantic. Won the most popular group in the world. Here's the latest catalog of special effects from Led Zeppelin. Dime store psychedelics for those of you whose bubblegum is laced with LSD. Never mind the unimaginative guitar work and the unutterably banal lyrics. Never mind the jackhammer rhythms and the grating singing, this album will be, indeed already is, a bestseller, and nothing said here will diminish its popularity. And that's kind of an interesting statement to begin with, because Led Zeppelin, after those first two albums, had set themselves up as such a force and they had such a following even then that they'd put anything out and it's just going to sell. And that was kind of his point here. 2 months ago, no one would have predicted that Led Zeppelin would supplant the Beatles in a popularity poll, or that they would produce an album which would make Led Zeppelin II sound like an enduring work of art, or make Ringo Starr seem a technical genius on the drums. But now Led Zeppelin has cruelly shattered those comfortable illusions. Led Zeppelin is not a terrible group, but it is incredibly overrated. A creature of the PR men, it has vaulted to the top on the basis of a few flashy tricks and an earlier titillating, heavy whole lot of love. Now, first of all, then, I'm curious how many of you watching this, because we do have we've had people I know comment on other videos that don't like Led Zeppelin. So I'm curious what you think of what he just said right here. On this album, the performers demonstrate the limits of their talent. The guitars seem to have a range of 2 notes. That is, whenever they are not busy clumsily running up and down scales to show their virtuosity. Rhythm has replaced melody. Intensity has replaced emotion and thought. If there is a song on the album which approaches quality, it would have to be Tangerine. But the preceding song, Gallows Pole, Jimmy Page and Robert Plant, demonstrate that they can update a traditional song by stripping it of its flesh, stripping it of the flesh of its meaning, and still ride the naked skeleton to the top of the charts. Now, I'll tell you something. When I heard Led Zeppelin III for the first time, when I bought it, and I heard Gallows Pole, I absolutely loved it. That's still to this day on Led Zeppelin III especially just one of my favorite songs. I love the progression. I love the instrumentation. It is a traditional song, but the way they do it, the way it's executed, it is so awesome. And the story, I mean, I love it. And it's just interesting to hear somebody that has such a negative response to it. And so I'm actually curious right now, those of you that are Led Zeppelin fans and that are familiar with Led Zeppelin III, where does that song, Gallows Pole, rank for you on that album? To me, again, it's one of my favorite things on there. Just the musicality of it and the novelty of it, the story in there. And anyway, I just loved it. And it was so funny when I was reading this, I thought, wait, how can he say that? I thought it was so great. And I still do. Okay. Buy the album and play with the self-consciously freaky cover. In a year, you will throw it into a stack with your old Iron Butterfly and Tommy James albums. So he's referring to what we were talking about earlier with the little spinning wheel. I don't know. I mean, he calls it a freaky cover. Maybe it's silly, but it's cool and it's kind of fun that it's there. I mean, that was one of the neat things about Led Zeppelin was the packaging on their albums. Quite a few of them just had this neat it had great artwork to begin with, but then they do these kind of cool little things with it. And, you know, physical graffiti is another one like that, where you have it's just kind of an interesting thing. And they did just odd stuff with their covers. And Through the Outdoors, another example of something odd they did. You know, they had, what was it, 7 different covers that were all in that paper bag, and you didn't know which one you were buying when you bought it. And I liked that. And Led Zeppelin III, yes, the little spinning wheel, which is kind of a child's book thing, it's still pretty cool. It's a neat thing they did. And so and we throw it into a stack of your old Iron Butterfly. So anyway, just really strange to hear this. If this is what is taking over for the Beatles, may heaven help us. The Led Zeppelin has a long way to go before it approaches the level of sophistication of even such an early product as Revolver. Which doesn't say much, because Revolver, I'm a big Beatles fan, and Revolver, in my opinion, is the best thing that they ever did. So he's treating it like it's not that, and I'm saying Revolver was, I mean, just everything about it was great. But anyway, I don't mean to get off on that. And that's the end of his review. Clearly does not like Led Zeppelin III. When I first heard it, it was after I was already introduced to them through all the stuff on 4 and all the stuff on 2 and 1. And then I was introduced to 3 somewhere in that process. And then it was different. Of course, it starts out, you know, you got the Immigrant Song, which is this powerhouse of a song. And it's only a couple minutes long, but man, I still to this day, just hearing that thing, it's just energy. It's so fantastic. And I know that's kind of trite to like that song so much, because you just kind of, but I do. I just love it. And there's so many great things on that album, Led Zeppelin III. And it honestly, for me, it didn't take me long to like it. Even as whatever I was probably 13, 14 years old when I first got it. And it didn't take me long to just actually really love everything on there. I think it's a spectacular record. But anyway, it's just interesting. Again, partly one of the reasons that I love reading these is just to kind of hear what people had to say at the time. So back in 1970, when this came out, this particular person really, really hated it, clearly. And I'd love to get your feedback, what you think of Led Zeppelin III in the grand scheme of all the Led Zeppelin stuff. How did that rank? And one of the reasons I was so excited when I found that Led Zeppelin III in the paper that I just showed you, the Chinese bootleg, was the fact that because it was Led Zeppelin III, and I actually really loved that record as much as I did. I thought it was such a great thing. And it was just a little different in between 2 and 4. Just kind of took a little bit of a different direction in some of the music, but it was still awesome. I thought it was great. Anyway, please follow the channel, like the video, share your thoughts about any of these things we just talked about. And if you know, if you are a Led Zeppelin fan, I'm sure you know somebody else that is too. So please share this video with other people. And with that, have yourself a fantastic day.